The following program contains coarse language and of course spoilers.
This is the way.
It's MANDO one day with Sky and Tinley. It's MANDO one day with Sky and Tinley.
We'll just start with episode 1 of the second season, The Marshal.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first. What were your initial thoughts about The Marshal?
It was a pretty awesome episode. Great dragons. Tim Oliphant just...
Oh, yeah.
He's rocking Boba Fett's armor, and yeah, it goes like right back into the show again. I don't know. It's hard. It's great. It was a fantastic episode.
Yeah, I was happy to see Timothy Oliphant in the show because I was a huge fan of Deadwood, and he played a sheriff in Deadwood. Ironically, he's a marshal in this one, but his attitude and it's awesome. And he played the marshal really well because he's sort of like an asshole, but he's protecting this small town from these people.
Yeah, they're back in Tatooine again.
Yeah, that was cool. I like Amy Sedaris' role coming back in as his friend. And the pit droids, the 3 pit droids. Now, I don't know if those are the same pit droids from The Phantom Menace, but to see those sort of screwing around was really nice touch.
It's awesome how this show is kind of like bridging all of Star Wars. Whether you hate the prequels or love them or, it's still part of the lore. Mm-hmm. So love it or hate it, like you kind of have to just accept that it's there. But they're bringing it in, and it's like, it's fun. Like, just he's like, oh, check it out. It's the little fucking droids from Phantom Menace, or I forget what episode it was in season 1 when it's probably the first episode when it shows the battle droids taking out the Mandalorian's planet. Mm-hmm. That was fun to see too. It's bridging all of Star Wars together, and then there's stuff from obviously stuff from the original trilogy, but then the movies that are out recently, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Especially they're able to work in, and I didn't really watch much of these shows, but they're able to work in stuff from the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, I haven't watched too many of those shows either. I've seen a few episodes of the Clone Wars, and I've seen a few episodes of Rebels. And I'd like to watch it. I don't have time to get into
right. There's so many of them.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. How do people keep up? I'll watch them. If I ever have time, I'll watch an episode here and there. I've seen just enough stuff on the internet about it, that I can appreciate it when I see it on another show. Mm-hmm. It's oh, that's awesome. It's Katie Sackhoff was in it to not jump ahead. Was in it recently. It's she did voice work on in the cartoon and on and now she's actually live acting it in the show. Mm-hmm. And even Rogue One, Saw Gerrera, Forrest Whitaker's character was in I think he was in the Clone Wars as well.
Yeah, in Rebels too.
But was it Rebels? Okay, it's one of them. But that's neat too that they are bringing
characters
stuff from and bringing them into the movies. That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. The addition of Dave Filoni to the universe of Star Wars has really paid off, and especially the addition of Jon Favreau as well, which
absolutely
he did Iron Man, right? And it seemed like George Lucas, when he visited the set last season, that he sort of gave them the green light. He was excited that they were working on it because it almost seems like they were handling it with a lot more care than what Kathleen Kennedy has done to it. So,
yes.
One thing I noticed, and I mentioned this to you, but the listeners might not, is the coolest reference in episode 1 of this new season was the R5 droid reference, where she calls over an R5 droid, and at the back of the R5 droid's head is a vent that has a burn mark. Yeah. And I can only guess that that's the R5 droid that blew up when Uncle Owen and Luke were purchasing it, and then instead they went with 3PO and R2. The black singeing around that back vent on its head, I'm nudged my dad, and I'm that's the R5 droid from A New Hope.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I totally missed it when you mentioned it that time. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome because they just pop in all these Easter eggs that are great. The first South Park video game was like that too. They would pop in just the most obscure references from the show and the movie. And only like the hardcore of fans would recognize them or catch them, which made it enjoyable on a whole nother level.
Yes.
For example, the speeder that the Marshal has seems to have pieces that look like they're from Anakin's pod racer.
Yes, I saw that. I read that somewhere online after I had watched it. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't look exactly the same, but it kind of looks like it, which has that aesthetic, I guess. And the crate dragons, I thought, were sort of reminiscent of that worm in the asteroid in Empire Strikes Back.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy because you see the bones and whatnot in A New Hope. Mm-hmm. And, like, apparently Obi-Wan can do an impression of what one sounds like. So, which I never really bothered to, like, go back and listen to that, just to see, like, if his Obi-Wan's thing sounded like the one in the show. I never thought to do that.
Oh, yeah, and, like, the Tusken Raiders run away.
Yeah.
See, I thought he was just, like, using the Force and, like, sort of, like, just making a scary sound and they freak out and run away, but maybe he was. It would be interesting to see and find out, like, how far back Lucas had an idea for, like, that skeleton or what it was, if it was a crate dragon or named something else.
Yeah. From the books, I remember it being a crate dragon as well. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how much the books, like, weigh in with everything else.
Yeah, because when The Force Awakens came out, or when they announced that they were doing a new trilogy, a lot of, like, the EU, the expanded universe, wasn't considered canon. It seemed to be mostly the movies and the Clone Wars and Rebels that they were drawing from. And, like, all those books from, like, the 80s and 90s that talked about Mara Jade and Kyle Katarn and stuff like that. But there is a little bit later this episode, we'll be talking about a huge reveal in addition to the storyline that I don't know a whole bunch about, but we'll get to it. Closing out episode 1, The Marshal, obviously huge, massive reveal of, I'm guessing, is Boba Fett at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that he survived from the Sarlacc, which is something that was tossed around in the EU all the time.
Yes.
It's sort of reminiscent of when Mando got swallowed by the crate dragon and then use his electricity to get out.
Yes, absolutely.
So that kind of seems like that would be something Boba Fett would do to get out of the Sarlacc, and he has a huge scar on his face, and I'm guessing he's pissed that his armor is...
I'm guessing so. It's like, hey, give me back my best scar.
I could be mistaken. Was Jango Fett a Mandalorian, or was he just pretending to be one?
Oh.
Because I'm not sure about that.
I don't know.
Someone at my work had said that they believe he's of Mandalorian descent.
Okay.
And so Boba Fett being a clone of Jango Fett, then that would stand to reason that he is from Mandalorian descent. But I had always sort of had the feeling or had thought that Boba Fett was not a real Mandalorian, that he was just wearing the armor and was a bounty hunter.
Okay. Well, I actually have my computer in front of me right now. So.
But it's cool that they got Tamura Morrison back in to play the part of a clone or Boba Fett. The scar on his face and that awesome rifle on his back.
Oh, yeah, and he's got, like, the gaffy stick he's, like, just rocking, too. He's just... Oh, it's great. What a great show.
A great episode to, like, come back to the new season. Like, action-packed, and the Tusken Raiders, like, working together with the villagers, and...
Yeah, that was awesome.
There's a cool montage there. When they started, like, building the trap for the crate dragon, I was joking with my dad. It was like, it's a montage. Making time pass quicker than... It's a montage.
Oh man.
I like that green acid stuff that it spit out at people.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
that's pretty neat. Monsters are always like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is it big, it's gonna spit shit at you as well. That's gonna really mess up your day.
Or it's like you just made it angrier. It's like you didn't kill it, you just pissed it off.
Right?
So episode 2 is called The Passenger. Of course, that was Mando transporting, I guess, this like salamander kind of female.
I think they're like frogs. They're
Like an amphibian of some
frog
kind.
people. Yeah, like an amphibian, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I noticed right at the beginning is, you know how those guys tried to like steal Mando's shit like at the beginning of the episode, and he just beat all of their asses and then gave that little dude the jetpack,
Oh, yeah.
and then he just used the remote control to fly the guy up in the air and then just drop him and then fly the jetpack back down. First of all, him hitting the ground was just hilarious because it was just like a huge thud.
Yeah.
And then one thing that I noticed was when he landed the jetpack back down, it tipped over and hit the ground, which kind of reminded me of R2 in A New Hope when the Jawas like shock him and then he sort of just bam falls face first into the
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good find.
It probably did suck for Mando having to like walk through that desert though in that Beskar armor.
Yeah.
It has to be hot or there's something underneath that keeps him cool.
Probably, I would assume there's stuff that like help keep it cool, but like still, I mean, not for long distance desert walking, I bet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The X-Wings were cool. And there was an, I don't know his name.
The guy from...
was one of the X-Wing pilots. Apparently his character knows... I'm trying to remember the friend of Mando, the female, like, warrior friend. She knows that pilot from the war. Because she called him Blue.
Yeah.
But that was pretty cool.
That. Yes. Yeah, that was great. I've been binge watching Kim's Convenience a lot lately. And so when I saw him in it, I was like, oh, no way, that's awesome. He's a super, super fan too, like Star Wars.
For sure.
He cosplays and stuff like that. And so he's a big nerd. So it's awesome. His Instagram page is quite fun to look at. But yeah, that was a fun little cameo.
Mm-hmm.
And Canadian too, so like that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. One thing I liked about that whole interaction between Mando and the X-Wing pilots was how it sort of showed some of like the procedural stuff that you don't really see in Star Wars because it's like action-packed. You want to advance the story, but it's like they're asking him about his beacon, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll get right on that." And they're like, "That's okay, we can wait."
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're in no rush.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Okay.
great.
Here it is. Yeah. And they didn't help him at the end, like get his shit back and up and running, but they didn't arrest him either. So it's sort of like,
exactly.
I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To quote
the classic. Yeah, exactly.
The planet that they were on was very reminiscent of Hoth, or at the very least, Starkiller Base in Force Awakens.
Yes,
I thought. And before you knew that it was a spider den, I thought he was walking into a Wampa's nest, like Luke was in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even think. Like I thought Hoth, but I didn't think of like a Wampa cave.
No,
I didn't even think about that. I was like, oh, that's actually that would have been fun too. But I
kind of like the spiders though. Those were
it was creepy as all get out. I was watching it with Chantal and our friend. She was over watching it with us, and they were freaking out because of all these spiders everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. What a scary encounter that was.
Yeah, and after seeing the episode, I remember talking to you about how it reminded me so much of the Chamber of Secrets in the Harry Potter series when they're being chased by all these spiders.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
The graphics and CGI of the spiders was just fantastic. It was that terrifying. And when the child, whose name we know now, but we'll talk about that later, was walking by those eggs, I'm like, oh, this isn't good. Like, sort of reminiscent of like Alien with like all the eggs from Alien. I'm just like, those are eggs. They need to get out of there right now.
Yep. Bunch of face huggers just jump out.
One thing I noticed about the child in the last number of episodes is he eats a lot. Like, he seems to need to eat all the time. Now, I'm wondering if that has to do with, like, his aging, or Yoda's species needs to eat all the time because they age. I don't know. I thought, like, over the last couple of episodes, he's, like, eating this and ate those salamanders' eggs, which I thought was funny.
Oh, yeah. It's funny when he was like, all right, so you be good, so you know what I mean. Because he can't rat about that he's eating their kids.
Yeah, I kind of expected her to notice that some of them were gone and like confront the child, but no. Yeah. I guess a lot of people were upset, though, that he was eating the eggs. Like, online, they were freaking out about it. It's just like, whatever. He's hungry. He doesn't know.
People... And I mean, we could do a whole other podcast about this, about people just fucking need to chill and let a show be a show. You can't argue over the rights of a fictional alien.
Right.
Let's just watch a show and let's fight real causes that we have to fight in our real life. Let's start.
That's the thing, they don't want to. They'd rather fight fictional battles than the actual real world battles and stuff that we can work in. It didn't turn out the way that I remember it.
Yeah, it makes my head hurt thinking.
This guy.
If I can bring back a second, go back to what we were talking about the X-Wings.
Yeah, man.
And just the procedural work. I love the fact, that it's got to show stuff like the Rebels now. They're not Rebels anymore. Now they're the New Republic. Mm-hmm. And they're working on cleaning up the rest of the galaxy now. And now it's all politics. Yeah, you were talking about how it's all... Before they were fighting a war, and now, like, these two X-Wing pilots are basically just cops.
Yeah.
And, like,
which would be a great show in itself.
Right.
It's like space cops.
It's basically what they were doing with the equivalent of, your brake light's out.
Yeah.
So we need to pull you over, and we need you to know that your brake light is out, essentially. It's like, oh, shit, they're just cops now. And it's neat to see, like, in, like, later episodes, we get into it as well, that, like, even though the Empire's out, people don't necessarily want the New Republic either, because there's so many, like, independent planets that are just doing their own thing, and they're totally fine without their left and right government.
Yeah.
So that's fun to see that people don't necessarily want the rebellion around.
Yeah. It's kind of like at the end of Hunger Games, where you've seen the end of Hunger Games, right? Like,
I've seen a couple of them.
But you haven't seen the end one?
No, go for it, though. I'm not seeing
Okay, so, spoiler alert. The Resistance rises up, takes down Snow.
Donald Sutherland, right?
Donald Sutherland, yes. And so they hold, like, an execution in the courtyard of, like, the Capitol, where Katniss is supposed to shoot an arrow at President Snow and kill him. But what she does is she raises her bow upward and kills Julianne Moore's character, the new interim president, I guess you could say. And then Donald Sutherland's character just starts to, like, hilariously laugh, and, like, as he's, like, coughing up blood, because he totally enjoyed, like, the decision that she made. It's just like what you said, these planets and societies might not want to be replaced by the New Republic either. It's like, we're just going to go from one system of power to another system of power, where all these vacuums have been created.
Yeah.
So episode 3 was The Heiress, and it sort of caught me off guard because this is where they start heading towards the Jedi with the child. And the trailer for the second season of The Mandalorian, I think, sort of misled the viewer, because there was a scene in this episode, episode 3, where there's a shrouded figure wearing like a cloak and a hood, and from the way that appears in the trailer, because of the dialogue that's juxtaposed over top of it, made you think that that was Ahsoka. It wasn't. It was one of these 4 Mandalorians.
Yeah.
3 or 4 Mandalorians that he encounters down the road in the episode. So I just thought maybe the trailer sort of misled people in that regard, because I totally thought that that was Ahsoka. But
I did too. That's the thing. I'm glad it wasn't like her right away. I'm glad they waited a bit more to not just like blow your load all at once. About it. Yo, you want it? Oh, there it is. Again, now we've got nothing to look forward to. This episode was fun as well. Pirates are always fun.
Oh, for sure.
Star Wars pirates.
Space pirates.
Exactly. And yeah, it's fun to see like more of these aliens come into, just because I don't know about everyone else. I read up on all this side shit like Quarrens and like the Mon Calamari, Weequays and all those guys, and Gamorreans and stuff. It's been fun to see them as not like background. They're background, but they're not like just hanging out in Jabba's palace.
Yeah, they're just people. Like that one Mon Calamari that was hired to fix his ship.
Yeah. He's got no political agenda. He's like, yeah, we're Mon Calamari. We fix shit. I'll fix your ship.
It won't be pretty, but...
Yeah, I'll make it fly. And it's going to cost you 1,000 credits. Whatever.
Which was funny because there's just like a bunch of strings and shit holding it together.
It was like, here's some aluminum foil and some gum. And that'll get you to the next more habitable
it's like
planet.
The MacGyver of the Star Wars universe. So the 3 other Mandos were cool, and especially how they were saying that they don't really follow the old ways. And Mando comes from a group of people that were rescued by the Mandalorians, but they believed in the older code of the Mandalore.
Yeah.
Which is you never reveal your face.
Yeah, and where they're almost looked at as like a cult.
Basically, yeah.
Like, they're so old school. It's like, oh, those guys are barbaric, in a sense. But yeah, that's fun. And yeah, Katie Sackhoff was fun to see. Mm-hmm. Who's the other one? Apparently she's a wrestler or something. I don't know. My friend was telling me about it. But yeah, that was fun too. More Mandalorians hanging around.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too that I found kind of cool is Mando was a foundling himself. Mm-hmm. Like, he was rescued as a child and then brought into the Mandalorian order and raised as one. And it's sort of serendipitous or ironic in a way that he's taking care of the child, and the child is a foundling. So it's like come full circle. Like, he was a foundling, and now he's charged with taking care of this foundling, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, actually, I never even thought of it that way. That's another interesting take.
Imperial ship scene I thought was pretty dope. And I don't know who the actor is, but the guy who played the captain of that ship has been in a bunch of stuff, and I thought was fantastic. If you know who I'm talking about. I don't know what his name is, but yeah, you can tell, like, even if I don't know who they are, like, when they they have the one standout guy, like, oh, that guy's probably done a lot of stuff, because they're really taking their time with this guy. Mm-hmm. It's hard to pinpoint what scene like I love the most, because the whole show is like just a joy to watch from like from the second the opening credits roll. When each episode begins, that Star Wars opener, where the colored light reflects over all the masks, and that music gives you goosebumps, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I look forward to every episode, that opener. Yeah. And obviously the Lucasfilm logo as well. Oh yeah, for sure. I haven't been this into a show in so long, like for ages and ages. Like I watch TV and whatnot, and I like my shows that I like, but this show is just like it's really got me, and it's like the most Star Warsy thing that's been out in so long. Mm-hmm. And it's got something for everyone, and even people that don't
like particularly care for Star Wars can get into this show in a big way, because it's fun to watch. It's got like classic tropes in it. It's a Western, it's a sci-fi, it's, you know, it's got drama, it's got comedy. What a great show. It's got something for everybody.
For sure. Yeah, the fact that there's this really entertaining show that everybody is getting into and talking about around the water cooler, and the fact that it's a Star Wars property is just makes it so much more awesome, because other than the Clone Wars and Rebels and the 3 new films and the 2 standalone films, there hasn't been anything really Star Warsy to grasp onto that everyone's freaking out about, and the fact that it's done so well makes it even better.
Yes. Well, and I mean, say what you want about Disney, like how evil if what I mean, they've got the money to make this show as good as it needs to be. Their budget is limitless. The money that it has, there's absolutely no reason for it to not be anything but amazing. And it has been. It's been great. They're smart enough to get people that love the franchise and are good at storytelling. The right people are making this show.
Mm-hmm. Coming into the new season, unless you weren't paying attention to like news or spoilers, everybody knew that Ahsoka was coming in. And
yes, I knew she was coming in.
And that Rosario Dawson was going to play her, which is a hugely awesome choice. Because not only is Rosario Dawson just awesome as an actress, but when I heard that she's going to play Ahsoka, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's great.
And the thing about it is, I never really watched Clone Wars or Rebels, and I know that Ahsoka appears in both of them. She's much older in Rebels, obviously. I know that Ahsoka was Anakin's Padawan, and then she had some issues with, you know, the hypocrisy of the Jedi and the Sith, and just sort of went off on her own and said, fuck it, I'm not being a part of either, which is probably why she's like on her own now.
Yeah.
When they mentioned her name at the end of the episode, it's like, oh shit, it's on now, because they just kept on referring to it as a Jedi. A Jedi. I know of a Jedi. And it's just like, oh, they said her name.
Yeah, no, it was great. Then the more I talk about it, I really do want to start getting more into Clone Wars. I can't have Attack of the Clones be my only taste of the Clone Wars when I know that it's like, those movies were awful, but the lore is still there, so you can... It's kind of like a whole like Highlander 2 situation where you just forget that Highlander 2 ever happened. Just take the story and say, here, forget that. Here's what it was supposed to be. So I feel like it would be a great watch. It's just again, the time, and there's like 8 seasons or whatever, and there's like 23 episodes per season or something like that. It's like, holy shit, man.
That's sort of what turned me off about it, was because I saw the pilot episode, which was like the movie. It was like a feature-length episode, which was cool. Introduced Ahsoka, cool fights and stuff. Like, for the time, the graphics were great. But it's just what you had just said. So many episodes to follow. It's just like, I just couldn't get invested in it.
I don't have the time. I work.
Plus, I didn't have those channels to watch it, right? It's like,
oh, well, that's the thing too. Yeah, you'd have to like download them, or I mean, it's much more accessible now. But now it's like, oh, that's too late. I can't get into it now. Oh, I've got like 20 minutes to spare. I'll watch this, or if Noah wants to watch it, I'll watch it with him. But other than that, I don't have the time. It's too much. There's too much content.
Does he get psyched for Mandalorian too?
Not really. No, he likes it enough. Like, he's got his action figures, and he knows like enough about it without ever having like really like gotten into it. Like, I got into it around his age. He watches it when he watches it. I'll take him to the movies when the movies come out and he sees them there. He's not in love with it. I think he'll get there. I'm hoping he gets there.
It's sort of become the show that your parents watch or were into, unfortunately. Because my kids, I think I've only shown them The Phantom Menace, and I had to sort of turn their attention away when Maul gets cut in half by Obi-Wan, because they're still kind of young, but they don't really have that interest in seeing like where the story develops, but they do know the major plot points, like Vader's Luke's father and he turned to the dark side, but when they get older,
exactly.
I might try it again, see if they're interested.
Yeah, Noah's been getting into like other stuff. Like I've got him into like Ninja Turtles and all that jazz.
Oh yeah, Bruce
yeah.
is into Ninja Turtles a lot now too.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and that's another that's another podcast for another time.
Yeah,
but yeah. I could talk to you about Ninja Turtles, man.
Episode 4 was called The Siege.
Yeah.
When he landed on the planet, I don't remember what it's called, but it was where he was before in the first season.
Yeah.
Those mechanics at the beginning of the episode, it was such a huge giveaway.
Yes.
The way he was looking at Mando, I'm like, okay, these guys are not up to anything good. Sort of a giveaway, but you didn't know exactly about what.
Yeah, and again, like this is so Star Wars-y that what's going to happen. There's always spies, and they got a double cross and everything. So
one thing I noticed, the Imperial base that they go to was sort of reminiscent of the base on Mustafar in Episode 3, or Vader's castle in Rogue One.
Yes.
Where it's like by lava, they generate power from the lava, and when Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting, they like fuck the controls up with their sabers, and like the shields get lowered, and that seems to be what they did in this episode, was remove the cooling and the shields to make the place explode.
Yeah, it made it all unstable and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the speeder chase, the trench speeder chase?
I was just going to say, that speeder chase was great.
Totally great.
And it was awesome. They ran past the garage full of like all those like speeder bikes, and I was like, "Oh, look at all those speeder bikes!" And it's like, "Oh, good, they're all hopping on the speeder bikes. It's good, they're jumping off the top of the base." Oh man, it was so good. And just it's fun just watching these guys just rip around on them. Some of them are fucking up and crashing.
Oh yeah, they would jump on it, and like a couple seconds later, they just totally crash it.
A couple of them look back and like, oh shit. They just keep going. And then like the small squadron of TIE fighters that fucking follow suit, and that whole chase scene was fantastic. Carl Weathers just manning the guns. They're bitching about each other. It's like, are you gonna fucking shoot? Like, are you gonna fucking drive? And oh man, it's so good.
Which is very Star Warsy.
Oh man, yeah, it was awesome.
Now, near the end of the episode, Moff Gideon sort of came into the fold, and that weird scientist guy that works for Moff Gideon.
Yes.
And they had mentioned something really interesting when they were talking about the child. They said the phrase, he has a high M count. Now, what I take that to mean is a high midichlorian count.
Yeah, that's what I assumed it meant. But they didn't want to say midichlorians because they don't want to piss everyone off.
Right. The only person who believed in midichlorians was Qui-Gon. It was sort of like a theory he had. And the other Jedi were like, okay, Qui-Gon, the Earth is flat, Qui-Gon, okay. Like, midichlorians.
You freaking nut.
Just ignore him, he'll go away.
There's just stuff in your blood and it's called midichlorians.
he keeps on sending me links. It's like, but that's what I took it to mean, was he has a high M count, which would make him a good host.
Yeah, that's what I assumed as well. Yeah, and that's another fun little like what if in there, a little Easter egg.
Yeah, and because this takes place after Return of the Jedi, I can only sort of have a theory that it's for Palpatine or some sort of cloning.
Yeah, where they had all those clones, right? Like floating around in the vats.
Yeah, which was totally reminiscent of the beginning of Rise of Skywalker with a bunch of Snokes.
A bunch of Snokes just hanging out.
Yeah. But you didn't really see the face of these bodies in these tubes. It was just sort of bodies. R2,
yeah, and I was kind of leaning in and squinting. What the fuck? Who's in there? I couldn't make it out. It's like, well done.
Yeah, because it could totally be the super soldiers that we saw.
Yes.
Maybe they're trying to create a half force sensitive, half trooper, a more powerful dark trooper. Maybe.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. They have something like that in one of the new video games that came out, like a half force sensitive soldier.
Oh.
I think if I'm explaining that right, it was in what was the game? Gosh.
Fallen Order?
That's the one. They were not Jedis or Sith, but they were like Force trained to be able to fight a little better. But yeah, I wonder if that's what they're making, something like that, because apparently that game is like canonical too with everything that's going on. I don't know. It could be anything. Basically, what I'm saying is it could be anything in this past.
Yeah. Which is interesting, though, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mandalorians are not susceptible to mind control, like mind tricks from the Jedi. That's what I've heard, that they're sort of like Tridarians, like Watto, where it doesn't work on them.
Oh.
Which make them a good enemy of the Jedi throughout the history, because it was like a formidable foe. They couldn't trick them and stuff like that. So oh shit, we just got to fight them. Yeah,
it comes down to fighting, other than like, oh, here's my fucking wizard trick to fuck with your brain. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's I hadn't heard that before, but I'm definitely going to look into that. That's awesome. That would make a lot of sense, actually.
One cool thing I saw and heard in the background is when they leave the child with that classroom. And there's like a protocol droid.
Oh, the teacher?
A 3PO droid teaching the class.
Yeah.
And so while you're listening to the dialogue of like Mando and leaving the child in the seat, you can sort of hear the protocol droid talk about what the lesson is. But what the droid is teaching the class about is Kessel.
Oh.
If you listen carefully, it's like, yeah, Kessel, and there's a maelstrom, and it's like parsecs and stuff like that, and I nudged my dad, and I'm like, because I always watch with my dad, and I'm like, oh, he's talking about Kessel. He has no fucking clue what I'm talking about, but but it goes back to what you're saying about how people of all preferences are getting into the show. Like, my parents obviously know, like, Star Wars. It came out 3 years after they got married, and they got me into it, and I've taken them to see the new movies and, like, Rogue One and stuff. So a lot of the deep canon stuff they might not know about maybe at the beginning of A New Hope.
They like it, they're fun, but they're not super fans. So.
Yeah. But I thought that was a nice little Easter egg. I'm like, oh, he's talking about Kessel.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I remember hearing them say something about Kessel, but I was trying to. I think I was focusing too much on what they were saying. But I'll have to go back and rewatch it. I've been meaning to go back and rewatch them anyways.
Me too.
They're so good. I want to revisit the first season again as well, because it's been a while since I've seen that one too. I was almost gonna like rewatch before season 2 came out, but it's just been too crazy. So I'll go back to that at a later date. But yeah.
And now the most recent episode that was on Friday at midnight, episode 5, The Jedi.
Yeah.
Which
just watched it last night.
Great title.
Yeah.
And that opening was fantastic.
Oh, yes.
With Ahsoka just effing up people. I like how she shuts her sabers off when she kills somebody just so she can hide.
Yeah.
Like, she comes back into the shadows and she doesn't keep her sabers on. She just kills, shuts them off, runs.
Yep.
Sort of like a velociraptor, like in Long Grass. I'm thinking of a lot the number 2 Jurassic Park, Lost World, where they're in that long grass, and then you see one by one they just go. Oh yeah, they get taken down. It was sort of like that. She shut her sabers off, and
that was a really fun way to open the show.
And I think it's cool too because you don't really. The way that the episode panned out was you didn't really have to know much about Ahsoka's backstory, or the Clone Wars, or Rebels to get the episode.
Yeah.
Okay, she's a Jedi.
Yeah, she's someone that avoided the Jedi Purge, so obviously she's going to be pretty badass.
Actually, I had that written down. Ahsoka was badass.
Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed throughout these episodes, though, is Easter eggs everywhere.
Yeah.
Of the Death Star. Have you noticed that? There's like...
Of the Death Star?
Of the Death Star. There's like maps or like holograms that are like in the background for just like a couple of seconds that kind of look like the Death Star. The little ball on that lever the child wants kind of looks like a Death Star.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it has like a ridge around the center of it that kind of reminds me of the trench of the Death Star. So I just see Death Star imagery and iconography in the background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty dope, and it's happened in a couple of episodes.
Okay. I didn't know. I myself didn't notice that one. I was taken aback by a couple other Easter eggs, but we'll get to that into the later bits.
Sure.
If you want.
One thing I thought was cool was that temple in that city that has been taken over by that woman. The main building, the temple, kind of reminded me of like Jabba's palace or the Senate building or even Cloud City, Bespin from Empire Strikes Back. Just visually, it kind of reminded me of those like three buildings, which was cool because it's sort of Star Wars-y.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good place for their final fight to that garden well or fountain fight scene.
What did that remind you of? That fight at the end.
I don't know. No, I'm curious to hear what you think.
It reminded me of the fight between Kiddo and Ora Nishi in Kill Bill.
Okay.
At the end, where it's like that clapping song. It's like
yeah.
And then she takes off a slice of Ora Nishi's head.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's I'd buy that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I love the fight between Mando and Ahsoka when they first encountered each other, where obviously Beskar deflects the lightsaber. Yeah,
that was awesome. That was a fun little discovery. To go check. Yeah, again, making the Mandalorian Jedi War is like so epic.
Yeah, which is interesting too, because he's looking for Ahsoka, and then he was hired to kill Ahsoka, which he doesn't intend to do whatsoever. When they're fighting, and then they stop, it kind of made me think of Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War, where they encounter the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Doctor Strange is like, oh, okay, let me ask you, what master do you serve? He's like, what am I supposed to say, Jesus?
Yeah.
He's like, you're from Earth. He's like, no, it's like, we're the Avengers, dude. And then they become friends and they realize that they're fighting the same enemy.
Yeah.
But I thought that was how Mando just, like, surrendered and said, I've actually been sent to find you.
Yeah.
What are the things that you noticed, some of the Easter eggs that you noticed in the episode? Or thought that was cool?
Well, towards the end of the episode, when they talked about Thrawn.
Yeah.
Just like from the books, like and I don't even recall if I read a whole lot of books with him in it, but I thought that was pretty awesome. What I wanted to do was watch it again this afternoon before we started. Mm-hmm. Easter eggs, personally, I didn't notice too many, but yeah, I'm sure it was littered with them, and probably with like a lot of like Clone War stuff too. So if there was a lot of Clone War Easter eggs, I didn't notice them because I'm still not super familiar with that show.
Yeah. We found out the child's name is Grogu.
Yeah, that was fun.
Which is pretty cool. And that he's not a clone, but he's a youngling that survived the Purge.
Yes.
And that's why he's 50 years old. When back in the first season, they scanned him and said he's about 50 years old. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. He looks like a child because it's a Yoda species. And then you find out that he was one of the younglings that escaped Anakin's wrath. He went to the washroom when that happened. It's like, dodge that bullet.
He's probably out there eating something that he wasn't supposed to eat.
He comes back. He has like a box of something. He's like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" He just turns around. Okay. There was one cool Eastery egg thing that I saw is Ahsoka's lantern that she had. Kind of reminded me of Luke's lantern on Dagobah.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
In Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it did look like that lantern a lot. Yeah, that was fun.
One thing I thought was pretty cool was those robotic guards or robotic soldiers that were hunting them really reminded me of Skynet from like Terminator.
Oh, a little bit.
Like the way they talked and moved and the sounds that they made totally reminded me of like the Terminators from like Skynet and the later movies like Salvation with Christian Bale.
Yeah. When he's yelling at the DP.
What are you doing?
We're done, man. We're done professionally.
You fucking up the shot. Yeah, but how many people wanted to go see that movie? after that. It's like, I wonder what scene that was.
Yeah, well, check it out. You can see us up over the shot. Oh, man, that's funny.
One thing I thought was cool too is when Ahsoka starts fucking up people at the end, and she slices the bell.
Yeah.
And then the bell hits the ground, and it basically makes the sound of a ringing doorbell. Like, she's here.
Cling, cling.
She's ringing the doorbell. She's arrived.
Right?
Yeah. And then obviously the Beskar spear and lightsaber fight at the end was pretty dope. And then the Thrawn
that was
reveal.
great.
Because I don't know much about Thrawn. I knew him from like a couple of video games, like early LucasArts video games, but don't know a whole much about him as far as the EU. So I'm interested to see, what's his deal?
Yeah.
Did he escape the fall of the Empire? Like maybe the child that Moff Gideon wants is for Thrawn, or like is he one of Thrawn's subordinates? We have yet to see him. Jonesing now that I'm all caught up. I can't wait until
I know.
Friday, right?
I know. Fridays are already a pretty sweet day of the week for most people, and now it's even more of a exciting time of the week. Yeah, I don't know much about Thrawn myself either. He was like a badass in the Empire, blue-skinned and whatnot. I think he's like one of the only, like... I'm not going to say anymore. It's a spoiler. I won't say anything else.
Good, because I don't know much about him. Other than that, he's blue.
And I don't know too much about it anyway, so if I'm wrong, I'll be the guy that's getting shit wrong.
The first 5 episodes, any additional thoughts or impressions?
It's all great. Every episode makes you just want to get to the next one, but then at the same time, you're thankful that it's not bingeable because then it's over. It always leaves you wanting more, and it's great. It's been a great season so far.
Mm-hmm. With the exception of the Marshal, episode 1 at the beginning of the season, which to me didn't really feel like it advanced the story a whole bunch. It was sort of like a get back to summer camp kind of episode, like all your friends and favorite characters are back, and here we go for another season. It was exciting, action-packed, but it wasn't until episode 2, or even maybe 3 of the season where the story started to get more advanced. Like, we're back into the main story of the child and Moff Gideon and delivering the child to the Jedi. So, but totally agree with you. It's been awesome so far, and cannot wait to talk about the next episode, which airs on Disney Plus Friday at midnight in the morning. So, great talking to you, man. We'll catch up next week and see what is in store for us.
Oh, man, can't wait to talk about it again. Thanks, man.
You can check me out on Instagram and TikTok at Scott_loves_puns. Puns is with a Z. You can also find me on YouTube, Scott Loves Puns _ASMR. And you can also purchase my audiobook and new comedy EP for only $2 and $1 at swoaudio.bandcamp.com. Thanks for listening and have a good night.